Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to Psychology and the Soul. I'm spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kelly White.
And I'm Dr. Shirlene Pellizzeri.
And thanks for waiting for us, everybody.
Yeah.
We're sorry we're a couple of minutes late. We have that Mercury retrograde glitch going. You know, the one that happens during Mercury retrograde.
The one.
Right, Shirley? You know that one. And
Yeah.
before we get through the topic tonight, because we have a lot to say about a really special topic tonight.
Yeah.
I do want to acknowledge, and Shirley and I both want to acknowledge that this energy right now is fierce. I mean, we are on an eclipse. The eclipse was early this morning, but you can feel that oppressive, intense, exhausting energy. And so I just want to acknowledge that. And I'll be talking more about that on my Thursday show on Ask Me Anything, because I'll be covering the March, I believe it's March show, March Vedic astrology. But this eclipse really, to me, has done a big number, right? March 3rd has sure hit us hard. So,
yeah, I told you, Kelly. I woke up and I looked at the clock and it was 3:33.
Wasn't that something?
Believe it.
And that's what time the eclipse was.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Sure.
I know.
I think that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Tonight we have a really interesting discussion that we're going to talk about, and this one is about spiritual bypassing and versus authentic healing.
Yeah.
And the reason we wanted to discuss this topic at this particular time, and I know we touched on it last week a bit, Shirley, but really, in light of what's been going on in the world within the spiritual community, particularly with Deepak Chopra, because he's faced a lot of criticism for utilizing spiritual bypassing. So we really want to explain what spiritual bypassing is. It's basically using, and we'll get into this more, but using, for his sake, using spiritual concepts to avoid addressing or taking accountability or taking responsibility for actions. And that, to me, is just a bit abhorrent when they don't take action for that. So spiritual bypassing. So we're gonna get into that, but spirituality, Shirley, is meant to expand awareness.
Right.
That's what it is. But sometimes it becomes a way, and I've seen it a million times, and I know you have, Shirley, to avoid discomfort. And it becomes a shield. So, like, we live in a culture where positivity is marketed, it's a strength. And it's, to have a high vibration is equated actually with worthiness. I mean, how did that come to be? But I don't know. But many people feel pressured, if you will, to rise above their pain before they've processed it. And they often confuse positivity with healing.
Yeah.
Right, Shirley? Like people, everybody's heard that. Just stay aligned, or everything happens for a reason. Oh my God.
Or just stay positive.
That's a bitch slap moment. Whenever I hear that, I cringe.
Right.
And if you find yourself cringing, pay attention.
Okay.
I mean, it's just sort of like, don't give your energy to that. Yes. And I can agree with some of this. And yet some of it is just misused.
Right.
It's misused.
Right.
And it feels like sometimes, Shirley, that these phrases are supposed to be supportive, but in actuality, they're very avoidant. And
they're avoidant and they lack substance. And
it's lack substance.
A way. Yeah, it's a way to kind of throw a Band-Aid on it.
Oh my God! And to avoid the Band-Aid, keep going.
Right. Exactly.
You were not molested. It doesn't matter. You're above that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even when we talk about, even when you talk about how we choose our parents and we chose our experiences to learn what we came to learn. However, that doesn't mean that then we fly over it. Okay, I was molested, but I'm not going to deal with that trauma because I'm human and that trauma is in me.
It's funny. I give that lens because I love to give lenses of awareness to make the picture bigger instead of staying in a myopic place.
Yeah.
But don't misuse the lens. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's the lens is important, and this lens is important.
Yeah.
But it's another way. I love to view things in a lot of different ways that you can see things. So yes, we choose our family, but we choose them so we can work on our issues, whatever is present. You just can't, I chose this family, so F me.
So whatever.
So whatever.
Right.
I just had a boss, Shirley, that I said to him, whatever. And he goes, if you say whatever to me one more time. It's really very funny.
That's
Sorry,
funny.
Chris.
But, but psychologically, avoidance is a natural defense mechanism. We all want to avoid pain. Nobody, it's not fun to sit in pain, right?
Right.
It reduces the immediate stress, but for the short term, in the long term, it prevents integration.
Right, exactly.
That's what the issue is. Yeah. When spiritual language is used to suppress emotional processing, that's what we call spiritual bypassing.
Absolutely. And healing does not happen by skipping steps. And we always say this, Shirley, even when a baby is young, we say if they all of a sudden go from, barely, barely crawling and they start to walk like right away, you always want to push them down so they don't miss that step. You can't miss a step. So this conversation is not anti-spiritual. I am wildly spiritual. It's
absolutely
about pro-integration of psychology and spirituality and groundedness and get grounded. And I want to give an example, Shirley, and you and I have talked about this, and James and I have talked about this, and this is one of James and my pet peeves for people. And I'm saying this as a psychic medium. I am saying this. But when people run, this is a total bypass for me. When people run from psychic to psychic to psychic to find the answer. And like they're going to go for this one. Well, this one told me this, and this one told me this. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, please, just grow up. Stop for a minute.
Right.
And I'm one person who was. I have two very famous people. One passed away not that long ago, who would just go from this one to this one to this one, used to drive me insane. And another one who's they're both very well known. And I remember James and I both, the second one, and I'm not going to say names here. James called me and said, "You know who just called me?" I said, "Yeah, I do." Blah, 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 blah. And she called me too, because they were looking for us to say something that they didn't have to take accountability for or whatever. It's you've got to be your own guru. I don't even like that word, but you've got to be your own teacher. You've got to be your own advocate, because honestly, you do have the answers inside, and when you don't, then that's the time to really seek help instead of running from psychic to psychic.
Exactly.
When I have a session with somebody, and I have some sessions available this week, Wednesday and Friday. So when I have a session with somebody, I literally look at everything. And it's from a spiritual lens, but it's from a psychological lens of like, what do I see? Yeah, I can look out and see some choices that are here, but what's going on with the person? I think that's the most important, so that you get your own strength. You get your own vital life force. You get your own strength. You don't give your power away.
Right.
What happens when you spiritually bypass. I really believe that.
Yeah. Oh, I do too. I mean, I see like psychics or mediums as a guide, to kind of help me along the way. But that doesn't mean that I don't do any of the work.
Yeah.
So let me talk about, the term spiritual bypassing was introduced by psychologist John Wellwood. It describes the tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid the unresolved emotional wounds. And
Shirley, do you know where he came from? He was a Buddhist, and he was involved with the Buddhist community.
Oh, wow.
And he saw all this spiritual bypassing in the Buddhist community.
That can happen. That can happen too. When you get too involved in meditation, for example, if you haven't really dealt with your stuff, you are bypassing. That is one way to bypass. That doesn't mean don't meditate, of course. But to avoid emotional wounds, psychological work, or developmental tasks. So examples include like suppressing anger because it feels low vibration.
And you've always said anger is healthy.
It is very healthy. Now, if you're a person that feels angry all the time,
that's a little different.
That's different, but I would explore that. Why? Why do I feel angry all the time? There's something to look at. There's something to explore. There's something to heal, as we just said, using meditation to dissociate rather than regulate.
And by the way, let me just explain what that means, Shirley, because sometimes when you get into these higher states of meditation, you can disassociate.
Yeah.
You actually can go off in a way. And,
right.
And often it's for avoidance.
Right. Exactly. I mean, if you're working on your stuff and dealing with your stuff, and then you go into these deep meditations and you dissociate, then great. You're visiting these other realms and getting what you're wanting to get from meditation, but not instead of.
and you have to get back and grounded in your body.
Right.
You have to do that. I remember when I did follow a guru for 5 minutes, and the meditation was extraordinary because you'd get way out there in this meditation. It would feel so good. There were people that would not come back into their body.
Yeah.
And that was such a bypass. That was a turnoff for me. I didn't couldn't stand it. I loved the experience of it, but then get back in.
Right, exactly. Well, because we live on Earth. So for right now, we have to be in our body.
Exactly.
Labeling, we were just talking about, labeling trauma as karmic without processing the impact of it.
That's a big one right there, Cheryl. That's like a red flag for me. It's just karmic. Did I earn this? Did I deserve this? Okay, look. It could be, it could not be. Who knows? It could be just where we are right now, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it's karmic, who gives a shit? We still have to deal with it because we're still humans in this lifetime. Right. Avoiding anger because it feels unspiritual. Dissociation framed as transcendence. We were just talking about, I live in a transcendent state, so I don't have to feel these feelings. Right. But the one that the one that gets me is reframing grief before it's been felt.
Oh, that's a killer.
That one kills me because, and the stupidest thing you can say to someone, stupidest thing is, well, they lived a long life.
Oh God.
Or they lived a good life.
Oh my God.
In that moment when I'm feeling the pain of losing someone, I don't give a shit if they live a long life. I just want to be mirrored. I want to go,
Cheryl, you should hear some of the sessions that I have with people because of the dumbass things that people say to them after they've lost the love of their life, or they've lost a child, or they've lost they're in a better space. Shut the what? And it's so unnerving to me when they hear this because it throws them into a state of, it's like they're afraid to grieve. Like somebody told them they couldn't grieve. You need to grieve. And not only that, grief just comes when it comes. It may be there for a very, very long time. There's no time set on grief. That's ridiculous.
And it shows up whenever it wants. And it can show up a year later, 2 years later. It's just being with it when it shows up. Now, that doesn't mean that our goal is to eventually understand, and to have these ideas of, things happen for a reason. They're in a better place, all that stuff. But when that happens too soon without you actually working through it, that's more of a Band-Aid. That's a spiritual bypassing as opposed to really getting there.
Oh, right. Oh, and let me tell you, the one that gets me, Shirley, is the forgiveness one. The forgiveness one. Well, you should forgive them. They didn't know what they were doing. You should forgive them.
Well, you need to go through the anger, the rage, the disappointment, the sadness, and all those feelings that came with whatever it is that they did before we can get to that place. That, again, is a goal, is a great goal to have.
Or
but
not.
Not before. Or not. We don't have to.
Yeah.
I see forgiveness as we do it for us to kind of, to not carry it.
So you just
with us.
Sometimes it's not even called forgiveness. It's just, I'm just done with the whole thing. So I'm moving on some level with it. I mean, I've thought about it. I've processed it the best that I can do.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
You're not going to hell or anything for not forgiving.
Yeah. And another one along the lines with forgiveness is avoiding boundaries under the guise of forgiveness. They are who they are. Yeah. I mean, we're going to go into a whole show about boundaries, but to not set boundaries. So you're not taking care of yourself because, boundaries are difficult to set because we have this idea of we shouldn't be that, or we understand who they are. We forgive them and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
And tell us about avoidance with this.
So avoidance feels relieving in the moment, but the nervous system still holds the experience. That's where it needs to be healed from. So spiritual bypassing is not conscious manipulation. It's obvious unconscious protection. Yeah.
And in some cases, it is manipulation. I mean, especially if you're in a situation where somebody you think you have a lot of respect for and they're manipulative in a spiritual way. That to me is the worst kind of manipulation.
Yeah. Well, from somebody else, I'm saying from myself, we're not, we're not consciously bypassing because we're trying to manipulate ourselves or other people. It's what we truly believe because we're in that avoidance piece where we're not realizing that we're too afraid to feel the pain.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And you know this, Shirley, but the body knows the difference between transcendence and suppression.
Yeah.
And so transcendence integrates and it expands understanding.
Right.
And suppression disconnects you from the body.
Yeah.
And spiritual maturity requires emotional capacity.
Right.
It requires it.
Right. Absolutely. But avoidance is deeply wired into the nervous system. So we need to understand that it was kind of evolutionary, where it was too hard to sit with difficult feelings. We had to keep moving. We had to keep living. When something feels overwhelming, shame, like, for example, shame, grief, anger, the brain seeks relief. That's just kind of an automatic kind of reaction to say, and cognitive reframing provides relief. Spiritual explorations provides relief, but relief is not the resolution. Relief doesn't mean that you've worked on it and that you've healed it. Yeah.
Right.
When emotions are suppressed, they often reemerge as chronic anxiety, irritability, somatic symptoms, relational conflicts, emotional
that's
numbness.
A big one. That's a big one.
Yeah, it can really, it really shows up in a lot of different ways. And avoidance behaviors can look like emotional numbing, constant busyness when we're busy all the time, certainly, drugs and alcohol.
Cleaning. When somebody's constantly cleaning because they're so anxious.
Exactly. Intellectualizing pain. You understand it, but you're not feeling it. And again, as we're talking about, over-identifying with a spiritual identity.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that one so many times.
Yeah, I bet. That one is really up your alley.
Oh,
the brain... Yeah.
I was just going to say, the spiritual community is a funny one, Cheryl.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's so funny when I meet someone who's in that community, if I can feel if they're kind of,
totally
up here and they're not grounded, then I have like this kind of mistrust.
Oh, totally.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't like nonsense.
No, you don't. You
really
are
a non-nonsense
person. Yes, you are. Yeah.
When I see it in the spiritual community, I'm like, oh, I've had enough.
Yeah. But, understanding also that the brain seeks safety. We're always going to want to feel safe. And so it's not easy to go into, the emotions that we feel when things happen to us. The feeling of grief feels threatening, and the mind will search for cognitive explanation to neutralize it. But again, the explanation doesn't allow you to integrate it.
It's so true.
The explanation can provide some relief, which is great, but integration is different.
And spiritual language can actually become an armor. Like if someone says, I've already healed that. Oh my God, how many times have I heard that one? But their body still reacts. The work is incomplete. Right. I've healed that. Tell me about your migraines again. Well, I've already worked on that. Tell me about your migraines one more time. I mean, how many times have I heard that? So embodied spirituality would say this, like, what is still living in the body? What is still living? Some people meditate daily and they still feel disconnected from their body. So that's not a spiritual failing. It's more of an emotional material remaining unprocessed, which is very important. And spiritual practice must be embodied with that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another one that you mentioned also at the beginning of the toxic positivity. The insistence that positive emotional states regardless of circumstances. No, I feel fine. No, I'm okay. No, it was, it invalidates the normal emotional range, that we have.
My favorite one of that one, Shirley, is you're attracting that energy. You're attracting that person.
Right, exactly. Or don't dwell on it. Just think higher, and that can also add shame to someone for feeling like their emotional reactions aren't normal.
That's very true.
When we try to minimize that.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you do attract the same narcissist or the same borderline or the same personality disorder over and over, really, instead of thinking you're attracting that energy, think, I better get some help. Somebody needs to help me with this.
Right. What is it about me?
What is it about me? What am I doing here?
Yeah. They're going to do whatever they're going to do, but what is it about me?
Right. Exactly. So, and that could be something spiritually that you have come into work with, which is, setting boundaries, speaking up, feeling what is right for you and really paying attention to that inner core of knowing what is right and what is wrong for you.
Right.
Know thyself. It's everything.
Yeah.
So disassociation can sometimes be misinterpreted as spiritual transcendence. And I'll give an example for that would be like, oh, I'm in this place and I feel this and I'm higher than high and I'm having a spiritual experience. And they've completely disassociated. There's no grounding at all. And that it can be misinterpreted because now then there are spiritual awakenings,
right?
But disassociation is different. It's very different.
Yeah.
In a true spiritual expansion, what that does is it will increase your awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But a disassociation decreases embodiment. So it's like you're almost just not present. That's just not happens in spiritual awakening. Okay, that just doesn't. So one feels spacious and grounded. You'll notice that Shirley and I will talk grounded here. But the other feels detached and unreal. And we've all seen these people that are like this. Like they're, and I tell you, James and I, whenever we would work with them, we would be like, no, this is not going to work. You have to be grounded. We were always, both of us have always been on the same page with that. And you too, Shirley. I mean, we'll say.
Absolutely. Clinically, disassociation involves a disconnection from the present moment awareness because many times being in the present moment is too painful. You know, and so that's why we want to dissociate. And as kids, we might have, that might have been a survival skill, an adaptive skill to not feel the pain of whatever was going on in our environment, and so then it becomes kind of the go-to.
Then it's your go-to.
Right. Then your brain can sometimes do it without you even noticing it. So in order to change that, I'll give you a personal example. My family knows me to have the worst memory on the face of this earth. And I do. I have to write everything down. My patients, however, always say, you have the best memory ever. And I couldn't quite understand the dichotomy of that.
Right.
And what I realized in my own work, in my own therapy, is that because there was neglect and it was so scary that I would just pop out. I would dissociate. And so I don't even realize when I'm doing it. In therapy, however, I am extremely focused on what the person is saying. So I'll remember, wasn't that Sally that you mentioned a month ago that you, and that's why they think I have the best memory, but it's because I'm hyper-focused. So that's how I've learned to be, to try and remind myself to be hyper-focused outside of the therapy room so I can remember things with.
But you've also done so much work on yourself that you do know that that's what you did when you were young. That was a coping mechanism.
Absolutely.
You literally would dissociate.
It saved my emotional life. I mean, when we saved our life, emotionally, absolutely.
And that goes along the lines of know thyself.
Exactly. Discover, you may not know the why of things, but you know what feels good or what doesn't feel good or what feels uncomfortable, what you've heard feedback from other people that you may not be aware of, And so that's the piece to take into therapy. I know I do this or I'm aware of this, but I don't want to do this anymore. And so that's when you explore why, because it's everything that we do, everything that we think absolutely comes for a reason. There's a valid reason for it. That doesn't mean change stuff.
Wow.
So dissociation can include like feeling outside of your body, emotional numbness, sometimes time distortion.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah. Memory gaps for sure. Yeah. So with the spiritual bypassing, it can mask, as we've been saying, dissociation, framing it as enlightenment. You have to be grounded to be enlightened.
And speaking of even the word enlightenment, when I started down this road, and again, when you follow a guru, they always try to do the same stuff. I'm enlightened and you're not enlightened. But one day you will be enlightened if you do this and this and this. Okay, here's the thing, everybody. Enlightenment is just another term, basically, for me, for spiritual awareness. Just be aware. Just be conscious. Evolve. That's a perfect enlightenment for you right now.
Exactly.
So, because I'll tell you, before we get into authentic healing and what that looks like, I just want to touch on this. But there are some common indicators of spiritual bypass if you're around gurus or people like that type. It's somebody that's well known in the spiritual community. Okay, what you will find that they will do is they will minimize your pain. So they'll use phrases like everything happens for a reason, just stay positive. They will invalidate your emotional pain or your traumatic experiences. But Shirley and I never will invalidate anything like that, ever. Now, that's a big one. So detachment as a defense. So encouraging emotional numbing or detachment from the ego. Oh, I heard that from this girl so many times. It's like a playbook, sir.
What would she say?
Oh, well, it's your ego. Detach from the ego to avoid dealing with your personal, messy, or difficult feelings. That was their go-to.
Wow.
They've had no therapy or training, right?
Well, because you know what that does, interestingly enough, is you detach to it, but then you form a need for them.
Oh, that's what they want.
You form a bond with them. You form a dependency
what they want. Yes.
in them.
And especially if you've had a really bad mother or a bad father, that's often where I see them go. And they're the mother, they're the father. Oh, for God's sake.
Oh, my goodness. My cousin joined call it a cult, with the guru many years ago when I was little. And I remember I read the pamphlet, and the pamphlet said, I am your mother, I am your father to you. And I showed it to my mom. I went, Mom, look at this. I couldn't believe it. Even that didn't make sense. I was like 8. That didn't make sense in my brain.
Okay, so this is what this gal, a guru I knew, used to say. I am more important than I'm important than God because I take you to God.
Oh.
So the first time Don heard that, he was like, my husband very well. He goes, would you repeat that? Maybe I didn't hear
what was that? That's hilarious.
But again, I share all of this, and Shirley and I share all this because it's so absurd. We really want everybody to understand all of this.
They need to create a dependence.
They have to do that. So the other thing is premature transcendence, which is focusing only on love and light and ignoring the shadow self, which, by the way, all these people have. Everybody's got a shadow. They have a big shadow. And ignoring their own anger or ignoring injustice. And here's another one, avoiding human needs, using spirituality as a cloak to avoid dealing with interpersonal relationships or financial responsibilities or psychological healing. That's a big one. But my favorite of all of the spiritual bypass nonsense that gurus do is narcissism, using spiritual superiority to avoid personal accountability for their harmful behaviors.
Right. Yeah.
Just saying.
Unfortunately, there are, the gurus of the world. There's a certain personality type that is attracted to become a guru, to have people always loving them, and
very sociopathic, actually.
Yeah.
It just is, But showing what authentic healing looks like. Authentic healing does not rush the process. Okay, it does include discomfort.
Right.
Hey, you're going to feel anger without becoming destructive. You're going to sit in grief without collapsing into it. And by the way, if you collapse into it too, that's just fine. Regulating the nervous system before reframing it, which is everything. In fact, Shirley, could you talk just for a moment about regulating the nervous system before we reframe it?
Yeah. Well, emotional regulation isn't suppression. And so we do that in sessions when someone is getting too, dysregulated, then we bring them back. Because getting too dysregulated, we call this staying within your window of tolerance. And you can go just to the top in people who get high anxiety, or just to the bottom, people who shut down, right? Okay. But we don't want to go past that. And so we will bring people back into regulation as a way to kind of help them instead of just completely, being dysregulated. And so when we regulate ourselves, when we're having, like, sitting in feelings can be really, really difficult. And so it's not okay to just drown in them. It's important to pull out, which is what a therapist can guide you to.
Right.
And then go back in and then pull out. Regulation means the nervous system can move through activation and then return to baseline.
Exactly.
Right? That's where the healing is. From a psychological, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
From a psychological standpoint, healing requires emotional regulation, memory processing, nervous system recalibration, and secure relational experiences. That's why it's so important to do this work in relation to someone else, like a therapist that you can trust, that is now going to hold the space for you to have this experience. Yeah.
Right. And it also with the therapist, safety. And somebody also, as you said, to co-regulate.
Right, exactly. When they're to co-regulate with you.
And then, and emotional literacy. So you understand what's going on here in the process.
Right.
And then the trauma processing itself.
That can help you process the trauma. I'll never forget in one of my sessions, she took me into the deep neglect. And I remember, and I was still aware of her because we do grounding techniques while we're doing that. So you're still in the here and now. But I remember popping out, and it was the first time I felt that dissociative kind of floating.
So you popped out.
Yeah. The whole time I knew
you were the patient or you were the doctor?
I was the patient.
Oh, okay.
I was the patient. And the whole time I knew she was there, and she put her foot on my foot so I can feel her while I was having this experience. So that's why it's so important to do it with someone else, with a therapist, and not by yourself, because you pop out like that and then you stay. There's no one to bring you back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so true. And spiritual maturity is not a constant calm. I'm not like, Zen. I'm not listen, I can be. I certainly can be.
Yeah.
But that's not my normal state. But
my normal state,
it's unrealistic. My normal state is I can be calm. And I could be slower to react, and sometimes I'm just quick to react. It's the capacity to feel fully and respond consciously,
right?
Which is important. So I do feel fully, and I do respond consciously most of the time. It's a practice.
But the thing is, we're also, as we've been talking, we're also human. So when we have a reaction like that, it's okay to repair. Repairing is the next best thing, and I'll give you a little neurobiological trick. That if you're having like an argument with anyone, but let's just say your spouse, right? And you lose it and you say something, you react and you say something hurtful. If you repair right in that moment, your spouse is going to remember the repair because it calmed the nervous system down so much than what you said, than the shitty thing you said.
Really?
Yeah. So if you can repair in that moment.
What if you can't? It takes a little bit of time.
If you can't, then still repairing still is good because the other person feels the calming of the nervous system, feels seen, feels validated. So repair is good all the way around.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from a spiritual standpoint, healing requires making meaning of something. I really love to make meaning of something, not to bypass anything, but why did this happen? When they can get to a point of that. It's like going through all of the traumas, healing, understanding that, and then making meaning. And the other big things with this are compassion is everything. Compassion for what you've gone through, what you're going through, for yourself. It's easy to have compassion for somebody else. Well, I'd like to say it's easy. A lot of people don't have that, but compassion all the way around is required now on Earth. And it always has been. It's the reason we come to Earth, believe it or not. But compassion, integration, integrating the experience, healing helps with that. And here's another one, and it's a big one, humility.
Yeah.
And in fact, speaking of humility, Shirley, before we get into the practical integration, I just want to mention something that our dear friend, Carrie Gania, is having an ancestral legacy. It's called Legacy of Love, Ancestral Healing in the Vortex in Sedona, Arizona on March 27th.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. She works with the transformational field. And when you step into family constellation work, you step into the soul's memory and you begin to untangle these patterns, which is what we're talking about, of grief and trauma and loyalties and stories and secrets and all kinds of things. And if you attend this, it's a 2-day event, and they're going to have a large group family constellation. But what made me think of it when I heard the word humility was there is also with Carrie Gonia, there is a wonderful man that Shirley, you and I know, Dwayne Morgan.
Oh, he's amazing.
Dwayne is
love Dwayne.
And love his wife, Elaine, too.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
her.
They're both such wonderful people.
They're wonderful. And Dwayne is going to be teaching with Carrie, and he's going to be doing quantum healing. He's extraordinary. I have to say, humble, kind, angelic. I tell you, to work with Carrie and with Dwayne on March 27th, 28th, you should go. If you can attend it, you should go. If you're in that area, or if you just want to make a trip of it, I think they just have a few openings, but it would be really good. And they're going to be doing a sound healing too with I don't know her, with Jen Christian, but that ought to be fabulous.
Going to be amazing. Now, how can they look that up?
Oh, go to carriegonia.com, K-A-R-I-E, Carrie Gonia, Gonia.com, and you will find it there. And Shirley, I have a class on March 14th for wisdom and healing for the empaths. I should have called this Becoming a Conscious Empath, but join me on March 14th if you can. And if you are already a member of my app, I am gifting you the class at no cost. It's a gift. If you are already a member of if you sign up for my app, you get to take this class. So I just wanted everybody to know that. But this is Becoming the Conscious Empath. And I'm going to be talking about why narcissists are drawn to empaths. And it's going to be very good. Anyway, I just wanted to mention one more class I have, Cosmic Origins, on May 22nd with Janelle Campbell. Who's going to be doing
She's lovely.
She's great from Australia.
I love her.
Oh my God. And she is such a great channeler. And she's going to be channeling the Starseed community. So it's going to be really good.
Oh, wow. My people. She's going to be channeling my people.
Your people. You should take this. Oh, Shirley, you've got to take this class.
I will.
You will
absolutely
love it. It's on a Friday night in the United States on May 22nd.
Oh, great. Okay. I'll do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. On a Friday night. It's like perfect. Anyway, just had to let everybody know all that stuff. Okay, Shirley, talk about practical integration.
So embodied spirituality integrates psychological development with spiritual insight. So again, there's that integration. It's not one or the other. It's both. It acknowledges attachment wounds. It acknowledges our trauma history, our emotional triggers, which is such an important thing to be aware of. What triggers you? You know, we all have one kind of, primary emotional wound, either not being seen, being abandoned. And it always comes down to that, and so understanding what your wound is and what triggers that wound, like I talked about last time, the runny egg story, right?
Right.
And relational, and it also acknowledges relational patterns.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So 3 practices to avoid bypassing is to ask, which I have always done ever since my lovely Dr. Peter Levine taught me, what am I feeling in my body? The body will always tell you what you're noticing, what's going on. The mind may not know, the mind might rationalize, the mind might go off in its own story, but you take it down to the body. What am I noticing now? It's a tightness in my chest. Be curious about that. Sit with the tightness. And more often than not, and I've seen this over and over again, up will pop either a thought that might feel random, a memory, or an image that will help tell the story.
So true.
Yeah, yeah. Delay the reframing for at least 24 hours because this requires integration. You have to integrate, once you feel it, it's okay to make sense of it, but, try to wait to reframe it and share honestly in safe relationships. Again, we are relational people. We are hardwired to be in connection.
And describe what a safe relationship is.
Well, a safe relationship is someone who can be okay with how you feel, be okay with, one of my colleagues who's a couple therapist said, when we can be okay at our partner's worst, when they're at their worst, we can be, that doesn't mean you take on insults and all that stuff, but we can still love them when they're at their worst, understanding that they just got triggered, understanding that, something happened. Sharing honestly in a safe relationship is someone who's not going to weaponize what you just shared with them.
Exactly.
Someone who isn't going to use it against you. You know, someone who maybe when you have a moment of dysregulation is going to go, well, I thought you worked on that. You know?
Oh, that's a big one right there.
Oh, that one drives me crazy because we will all have moments of dysregulation. We can be the most evolved. And because we're human, we will have a moment of dysregulation and maybe of, you know, misstepping.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So those are the things.
Well, and to embody spirituality, what does that mean? It means you set boundaries. You're an empath, know thyself, set a boundary. How I set a boundary is pretty simple. Let me think about that. I don't know. Not yet. I actually put my hand down. It makes me feel very powerful when I do that. Like, no, I'm not ready yet. No, I don't think so. Actually, I usually say no first. I've learned boundaries, and I've learned them the hard way. Yeah. I'm going to talk a lot about that in my empath class. I have so many tips for that, for setting boundaries in my class, because I've been through so much of it. Accountability for spirituality, really accountability for who you are and what your needs are and what you're doing and who you allow into your inner circle. You know, for goodness sakes, take accountability. Nervous system awareness. So I will have to pay attention. Am I anxious? Am I feeling this? What am I feeling right now? Where's my nervous system with everything? Shadow integration, looking at my shadow, looking at my own shadow. You know, it's everybody has a shadow. We're on earth. Everybody, there is no 100% perfect person. It just doesn't exist. Okay, as far as whatever perfect would be. You know, emotional honesty, being very honest, being really emotionally honest with how you feel instead of, you know, trying to be this when you really don't feel that way. Be emotionally honest. So you cannot bypass the body and call it growth. You just can't, because the body keeps the record, and healing is not a performance. It is being in the presence.
Right. And we might have, you know, talking about the body, you know, we might have uncomfortable feelings or not understand it. But again, there's the curiosity piece. If you look at it with curiosity and not with self-judgment, then we can go in there and just be with it. Even if it's something you don't like, it doesn't mean that we love everything about us or everything that we're feeling, you know, but it's noticing it and being curious about it. And that's where the healing, that's the process of healing. Yeah. So some clinical tools to reduce bypassing is to label things emotionally, you know, and the neuroscientists have a saying, name it to tame it. So if I'm noticing anger, whoa, I'm feeling a lot of anger right now. And just naming an emotion helps kind of calm it just a little. It's almost like emotions want to be seen and validated, you know?
Yeah,
they don't want to be shoved down and bypassed. They really don't. Because the truth is that even if we don't feel an emotion, even if we suppress it or repress it, it's still there. So the energy, emotions are energy. The energy is still inside of you, and it's going to stay there.
And surely, our generation, there are so many people or parents would, you know, you just suck it up, or you just, you know, you just keep going. You didn't talk about emotions necessarily.
No, not at all.
And so it's really important that you do understand what you're feeling emotionally, because some people really don't.
Well, and I'm glad that you're bringing that up, because it's also understanding how your parents dealt with it, which is how you taught. My mother was like, "Oh no, look at this pretty thing." Look, so it was distraction. So in my mind, I learned to distract from my own feelings. You know?
Do you remember the chart, Shirley? And it's so funny. And I started off in therapy, and I was working with kids, and I was trying to help them to understand their whatever emotion it was. And so then I would have a chart out, and they would like happy, sad, you know, like all these different things, right?
Right. Exactly.
But I used that with adults, I remember.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes, you know, you can laminate it, you can buy it on Amazon. And it's every emotion with a cartoon drawn face of what might, you know, go with the emotion. And it's, listen, when I first started, absolutely. When I first started doing my own somatic work, it was like learning a new language. I had to learn what I might be feeling, you know?
Wow. It's so not important.
When you've had to shut them down, you know, especially as a child, you really don't know. Someone says,
you really don't.
Many times somebody would ask me, "What are you feeling?" And I would try and tune in and go, "I don't know." You really don't know. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And when you get in trouble in relationships is when one really doesn't know. And the other one is like, "What do you mean you don't know?"
Exactly, because some people don't understand truly, not knowing. My mind would draw a blank and I really wouldn't know what I was feeling. And that's where the somatic tracking, that's where I would have to go in and see, okay, what am I feeling?
So that's what somatic tracking is.
Yes, right, exactly. Tracking your body. And initially you might not feel, someone says, I feel numb. Okay, what does numb feel like? Does it feel like a separation? Does it feel like a shutdown? So you start with the quality of numb. You always start wherever the person is. Yeah. Because some people, would feel numb. They don't feel emotions. And so then, you don't want them, what's wrong with me? No. Let's start with what feeling numb feels like. Yeah. And of course, trauma-informed therapy.
Yes, describe. I was just going to say, would you describe that?
Yeah. Well, it's someone who understands the neurobiology of trauma, what happens to the brain and the nervous system, because you can't just talk it through. But understanding that piece is really helpful to then understand where you might have gotten stuck, what might still be in there,
right.
And then, of course, the gradual exposure to emotions that we've avoided. Again, just like I said, keep people within the window of tolerance. So, because if you go too overboard, you might run the risk of re-traumatizing someone. So you're keeping people in by when they get dysregulated, you kind of bring them back. When they get, sometimes in the middle of a session, when I notice someone getting too dysregulated, I go, hey, can you find 5 pink things in my office? Let me invite you to look for 5 pink things. And so they have to use the, front part of their brain, the thinking part of their brain to reconnect. And that helps regulate them again. And then we can continue.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, Shirley. Well, and some spiritual tools for integration would be a grounded meditation where you stay present in the body. That's a good one. Journaling without spiritual reframing, just journaling. How do you feel? What's going on? Breath work with containment. So a breath, maybe taking, a deep breath for 4, hold it for 4, release for 6. Just breath work.
Yeah.
Conscious ritual after emotional processing. So do some conscious ritual. In my case, I'll tell you what my ritual is after I've done a lot of emotional processing is I will go hug my dogs. That's a big one. I love that one. I'll step outside just to get, a clear head or something.
Yeah.
I do something different. Sometimes I will wash my hands a lot. Not a lot, but I mean, wash my hands.
Yeah.
And that kind of does that too. But ask yourself, am I processing this or am I explaining it away? So am I processing it or am I explaining it away?
Yeah, that's a great, and you can tell the difference because processing is embodied and explaining just stays in the mind. So that's how you can tell the difference.
Would you say that again?
Yeah. Processing includes the body. Explaining just uses the mind. Okay. Yeah. I have a wonderful friend, an incredible breath teacher called Betsy Politan, and she teaches how to feel the gravity under your feet.
Oh, wow.
How to feel that the gravity, the floor comes up to meet you, and to feel that. And that can be very, very grounding, to really take a moment to just feel the gravity. Yeah.
That's really slowing it down.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Wow, Shirley.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, well, we thought that this topic was interesting and important to kind of start to set off the shows that we're going to do, the different topics that we're going to have, because it's so important to, again, just acknowledge we're human in this life.
My God. And Shirley, spiritual bypassing is not a failure. It's for protection, but protection is not integration. And so really what we're trying to do, everybody, is keep everybody in a conscious state of just an awareness of how and what you're doing.
Right. Exactly. I mean, healing requires the nervous system regulation, as we've been talking about, to really stay as regulated as possible. But when we get dysregulated, having the tools to help bring that down. And dysregulation can be also hypo, meaning we shut down.
Absolutely.
So to know tools to come back up, just as we've been talking.
And spiritual meanings must follow embodiment, like groundedness, okay? And psychology helps us feel safely, right, Shirley? It does
Yeah,
help us
yeah,
feel safely.
exactly. It's help feel safely. Spirituality helps us make meaning because it's important to understand.
And integration requires both.
Yes, yes. It's
So
absolutely a combination
psychology
of
and
both.
soul. That's what we've been talking about.
Right.
And that's what we're going to talk about week after week. And next week, Shirley and I are going to be answering your questions. And we're going to, it's called the Integration Forum. We're going to answer as many questions as we can. So thank you for sending the questions to us.
Yeah.
And we're going to answer questions once a month, I think, Shirley, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's fun and yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you learn a lot. I mean, you know, the questions could be anything from, you know, I don't know, whatever they happen to be, spiritual or they happen to be psychological. You know, and so and the other thing is, Shirley, and you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this very much yet, but Shirley and I together are going to be offering sessions together, and you'll be able to find that on our website and on Psychology and the Soul. That we will be, you could work with us for about I think a session would be an hour and 15 minutes or something, whether it's individual or whether it's a couple or whether it's a family. And Shirley would be helping with the psychology of everything, and I'd be working with the spirituality.
Yeah. Well, we've done that.
We've done this many.
We've done that together. Yeah, I've always, for my patients who believe in, you know, spirituality and even mediumship, I'll say, can I invite, you know, Kelly in? And hey, Kel, you available Thursday at 1? Yeah. When you used to live in LA, and she would come in, and I mean, the sessions were just amazing.
They were very amazing, and working with Shirley is really amazing. And then together, so if you are divinely inspired or psychologically inspired to work with the two of us, you'd have to go through our person, Michelle, and she will find the time to do this. But Shirley and I are making ourselves available for that. So I want everybody to know that it's out there. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. And see me on Thursday. I'm going to be talking about the energy of March. And it is,
my goodness,
it's
so
a doozy.
Important. It's a doozy. It is a doozy.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thanks, Shirley.
All right. Bye-bye.